in terms of your income taxes. But your income taxes go to pay for a lot of services. We're an older state. All the infrastructure we talked about earlier, someone's got to pay to fix that infrastructure. If you're looking to the state for it, that comes from state taxes. It's not like the money appears out of nowhere, or it comes from federal grants, which means it comes from your federal income tax. What do you do to lower state taxes? I think that the goal should be to try to hold them where they are, not let them go up, because inflation will help a little bit in terms of if you keep the rate down on the state taxes and not increase the rate of state taxes. Waste, fraud, and abuse. I think that we should always be on the lookout for things that could be cut, and we should have a sharp pen when we do it. But you also have to remember this. We are a state that believes in the dignity of work. We believe in unions. We believe in people getting a fair pay for fair day's labor. We believe in people having a dignified retirement. We believe in people having decent health care when they're working for the state. And so we have a lot of our taxes go to pay for the expenses of maintaining a workforce, a public workforce, that's a very effective workforce of people that do mostly really great work. I mean, a lot of them are the people that everybody loves. Everybody loves the police. Everybody loves the teachers. Everybody loves the people that they see that get subsidized on all sorts of public services. They don't love they may say, well, I went to the DMV and I waited for half an hour, and they get mad and they think that's the only type of public employee there is. Not to say the DMV employees, I've been to the DMV recently, it was a very easy experience and they were great, so I had no problem with them. I was at
DMV the other day on Monday. 2 hours we were there.
That's not good. That's tough.
2 hours I was there waiting for them to get through.
They're better now than they used to be.
I'm not saying that.
Because they are. Because I remember as a kid, it was always a wait. And I went through there in 20 minutes, half an hour.
But the thing that increases the time at the DMV now is that they took out the New City DMV, and everybody's got to come to Haverstraw.
That's a little annoying. Well, not for you. You're not that far from it. But for people over in
the travel is
Suffolk, and it's a long trip.
The travel is but even Suffolk, New City's further than Haverstraw.
I guess that's true if you come around the sideways. Okay, fair enough.
But you talk about money that shouldn't be spent. What about the $10 million fund that Hochul put into for Letitia James's attorney's fees if she was getting prosecuted? That's $10 million. Why should I have to pay for her legal defense if she's accused of doing something wrong? I'm not saying she did.
She was accused of doing something wrong in her official capacity.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that we should have to pay for her legal fees.
If anybody who works for the government in any capacity is sued in their official capacity, the government pays for the defense. Otherwise, nobody would take public office. Because I would never be a senator if I thought that if somebody thought that I did something wrong and sued me and brought me into court, that I have to pay for my own defense.
Yeah, but what she's being accused
of
is not in her official capacity. It was the mortgage thing.
Oh, the mortgage fraud. I thought she was,
No. That whole thing was because of what she was going to be with the mortgage fraud.
Yeah, but she was sued. We know why she was sued. The mortgage fraud was nonsense. She was sued because she prosecuted Donald Trump and got a $400 million fine on him.
Which got overturned.
Well, it was still, there was a lot of bad content that came up on that. He's not allowed to run a charity anymore because of the things that came up in that prosecution.
Anyway.
But stipulate to the fact that we could probably point to any individual thing and say, is that a good expense? Is that a good expense? Some of them we might disagree on. Some of them we might agree on that this is unwise. Some things we might agree on that these are wise. But I'm just going to tell you a quick story that kind of articulates why the heart of why New York is a high service, high tax state. Same thing in California, is that we do believe in people getting paid fair pay and people being able to retire in dignity. And here's the story. A few years ago, we used to have an agent who worked at our company who had spent her first career as a teacher in the public schools. And then after retiring from the public schools, she started to sell real estate, so I got to know her when she was selling real estate for Rand Realty. All right? Her husband was a New York City cop. About probably a little longer, it was before COVID. They retired down to Florida. God bless them. Happy for them, okay? And about 6 months after they got down there, She posted on Facebook something along the lines of like her on the beach and saying, "Oh, you fools up in New York, we have it so good in Florida. The weather's perfect. The taxes are really low. We're living it up. I don't know why you live there with all those high taxes and everything like that." And so I wrote back to her. I said, "Listen, I'm happy that you're enjoying your time in Florida, and I'm really thrilled that you can afford to do that because you have pensions. You have your pension as a public school teacher. He has his pension as a New York City police officer, and I'm happy that you have your pensions, and I'm happy that my taxes go to fund pensions for people like you. So if you had been a teacher in Florida for 25 years, you don't have that kind of pension. If you'd been a police officer for 25 years in Florida, you don't have that kind of pension. You're not even retired yet probably. But you live in New York, you did your work in New York, and we valued you and we gave you a pension, so enjoy it. But I'm happy to provide it for you. But don't stick my nose in it by putting up on Facebook that I'm a fool for paying taxes that go to pay for you to live on the beach in Florida." So that's the thing. I had somebody from a union tell me recently that he was talking to a bunch of union guys, and the union guys who are public union employees said taxes are theft. He's like, "Taxes are theft? Taxes pay your salary." I mean, people don't make the connection. Taxes pay your salary. So, you tell people, you say to people, you don't like paying taxes, well, but you like having police protection. You like having a working, whether it's state or federal taxes, you like having a working air control system so you can fly safely. You can drive on the road safely. All of these things get paid for by taxes, and we are a high tax state, but that's because we provide high services. We also provide, you go move to Texas, ask people who live in Texas about their public parks. Don't exist. Not like what we have. We have public parks. Those cost money to maintain and to obtain. We have subsidized skiing in New York State. You go up to Gore Mountain. Gore Mountain's a state facility, subsidized by state funding, and it's cheaper to ski at Gore, which is a great mountain, than it is to ski in Camelback.
What about those who don't ski? Why should I have to pay for everybody else to have fun?
It gets them off the road, less traffic.
Okay.
It gets them up to Johnsville.
We haven't said how you're going to help reduce the taxes, but let's move on.
I don't know if there's anything that can be done. I mean, I'll be honest with you. And anyone that says that they're going to go up there and say, "I'm going to reduce taxes from waste, fraud, and abuse," they're just playing games. That's not real. But you can hold them back, and you should hold them back by being really careful about budgeting and by being really careful about how you allocate.
Every year when the budget keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And
it's always going to get bigger because of inflation. It's always going to get bigger. It's just like with NIAC, union salaries go up every year. You have to raise taxes.
But the whole thing comes down to we're working on a deficit budget where we owe money. The states, I don't remember what the deficit is, but it's in the billions that we're behind in money. But, we keep raising taxes and nothing happens with the deficit.
Did they raise taxes in the budget? I just haven't seen if there was a tax raise.
I haven't seen the recent budget. I'll have to look into that.
I know they were talking. They put it on a pied-à-terre tax. Do you? Let me ask you a question. So they put in this pied-à-terre tax,
and that's
which is this mansion
in the city. A second home.
And if you had a second home in New York City, that's not your primary residence. It's a tax on the value of that home. I forget the percentage, but if you have a single-family home in Manhattan, the minimum price of a single-family home in Manhattan is $5 million.
Yeah.
The average price is probably more like $12 to $13 million. So I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to cry tears over that. I do not like to raise taxes at all. I'm a capitalist. I'm a Democrat, but I'm a business owner. I've paid many taxes in my life. I don't like writing the check for taxes any more than anybody else does. But if we do need to fund operations, we need to get funding come in, which sometimes means to raise taxes. And if you're going to raise taxes, a pied-à-terre tax for somebody that's keeping a second home in Manhattan, which takes inventory off the market, which raises housing prices in the city, that they should pay a little bit. Even though they're not living there, they're getting the benefit of having all the protections that come from being in the city. They should pay a little more. I don't have a problem with that. even though I'm a real estate person, I don't have a problem with that. I'd rather listen. If when they raise the taxes on the wealthy, I'm lucky enough. I've been fortunate enough in my life that I'm well off. So when they raise taxes on the wealthy, I'm usually one of the people they raise taxes on. And I look upon paying taxes as something I do for the common good. It's about the most patriotic thing that I do every year is I pay for the common defense, I pay for the common good, I pay for fund all these things that we value in our society. So that's a good thing. And I would say that to my people on the left. I do not like when my colleagues, Democrats or people to the left of that, when they characterize raising taxes as being punishment for the wealthy, like they should pay their fair share, or they're evil billionaires, eat the rich, stuff like that. That, to me, is not the way we should be going about this. If you want to raise taxes on the wealthy, you got to make the case to the wealthy and say, listen, we need your support, we need your help. We need your help because here's the things that we want to fund. Here are things that you value. We think that more people.
Incoming message.
We think that more people should have health care. We think that more people should be able to access clean water and clean air and good roads and all the things that we all value. But to do that, we need to raise tax on people making more than $1 million a year or something like that. And I think if you approach it from a community spirit rather than we're going to punish the wealthy, I think you would get more acceptance of it. I certainly would be willing to accept it if I thought the money was going to be invested in programs that I thought were going to go for the common good.
The biggest thing is people know the rich, and I'm going to go down this road.
Sure.
That the wealthy should pay more; they should pay their fair share. But the people that have that kind of money, there are loopholes. There are things in the law that they are. As long as they're following the law, they're paying their legal fair share.
Agreed.
And that and that's the thing that these people that want to stick it to the rich don't mention in their diatribes about this. If you want the rich to pay more in actual taxes, forget percentage, the actual money, then change the laws to get rid of some of these loopholes.
Agreed.
that
100%.
that the rich can use. As long as they're doing it legally, they're not.
Well,
They are paying their legal fair share.
Well, let's stipulate that most people probably do pay their when they say fair share, they mean a share that's approximate to the fact that they are wealthy and make a lot of income.
Right, but they are paying their legal fair share by following the laws that are on the books.
Let's stipulate to the fact that absolutely people should not be required to pay taxes more than the law requires them to pay.
And some of these taxes,
no one's going to write a bonus. No one's tipping the U.S. government or the state government with an extra tax and saying, I'm not going to take advantage of this tax deduction
some of these taxes
because I don't
that some
want
of these people are proposing end up double taxing, which is illegal. You're taxing income twice, and you're taxing things twice that legally only supposed to be taxed once. And that's a big problem, and not just here, California. I mean, California wants to have you're moving, we're going to tax you anyway. I'm sorry, I'm not in your state anymore. You have no legal authority to tax me because I'm leaving.
Let's talk generally about that.
Okay.
Let's talk generally about that.
All right, let's go on that, and then we'll get to the next topic.
Because we have an agreement, we're in agreement of the fact that we should be closing some of these tax loopholes. Like, if you work in certain industries, you get what's called the carried interest tax loophole. The carried interest allows you to treat your income, which is income that you get from managing other people's money, you get to treat it like capital gains. It's a little more complicated, but that's the basic idea. So you pay a lower tax rate on what is essentially ordinary income. And if they fix that in the Fed, it's a federal law, that would be billions of dollars to the Treasury. And the people who make that money generally are extremely well off. And it's really not fair that I work for a living and I work and I provide services and I get paid for the services and I pay X taxes, and you work for a living, you provide services, but because your services are managing other people's money, which when the client makes money, that's a capital gain, but somehow when you make money because you're managing it's not your money, it's their money, that you pay a capital gain. That's an example of a loophole that's not fair. There's a lot of real estate loopholes that are also not fair. We should be closing them but unfortunately I think the trend right now federally is to go the other way and provide more loopholes and exempt more income, and we really shouldn't be doing
Well,
that because they're going to run the deficit is going to be beyond imagination this year.
The reason for that, and I'm not saying I agree or disagree. The reason for it is that they feel if reduce the taxes, there'll be more investment and more jobs for people, and they'll get more taxes from people getting more jobs.
Yeah, that's not
But
the way.
anyway.
That's not the way any of that works. I'm just going to tell you that top-down stuff, that trickle-down stuff, it never works. Nothing grows from the top down. You want to create more jobs? Create demand. You want to create demand? Give tax cuts to the people making under $50,000 a year.
Okay. Let's look at the economy, which
Sure.
is what we're dealing with from the taxes down to the economy. Business regulations. New York has, they regulate everything up to, how much vending machines you can have in your in your shop there. Not that bad, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yep.
Everything's regulated from top to bottom. And that's another reason a lot of businesses don't stay in New York, because there's too many regulations, too much red tape to go through. And that hurts the economy of the state because it pulls jobs out, it pulls businesses out that cover tax bases, getting back around to the taxes, that cover tax bases that could reduce taxes for the average New Yorker. What can you do? Do you have any plans to help keep businesses here? Again, with the regulation and everything else that are there.
I am with you 100% on reducing red tape regulations on business enterprises, including licensing regulations. If you were to go look to see how many occupations in New York State require licensing, you'd be amazed. You say, that person has to be licensed? And they have to go through all this licensing training and education and maintain it and continue education, and they have to fill out forms. It's too much.
Daycare.
Oh, well, daycare is, all these things going, daycare is not a great example.
I'm talking about with daycare is the constant, what you said about the constant education, the constant classes. They have a lot of that type of stuff. But let's not get bogged down in daycare.
Let's talk generally about it.
I was just bringing that up as an example. As an example, because I know my wife used to work in daycare, and she and her boss had to go for classes like every other Wednesday.
There was something recently about, there was some regulation, I think it was in Washington, and I think it was a congresswoman there who pointed out that, in daycare, you were allowed to feed a child a banana, but if you cut up the banana, that was illegal, and it was why? I will say this, every regulation that's on the books is well intended for a particular purpose. Every regulation. They have it there for a reason. It's there, somebody had a problem, and then someone went to the state and they said, oh, well, it's harmless for us to add this little requirement that's in there. The problem is that you add requirement after requirement after requirement, and they're all well intentioned, but after a while they become too much of a burden, and they really do make it tough on businesses. I'll give you an example.
Well, you know what they say: the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
The road to yes, that's exactly right. And I think that I
think right now with all these regulated good intentions, we're on our way to hell.
Well, I will say this: I think that the governor agrees with you and agrees with me, because one of her big fights this year was to get a reduction in red tape relating to SECRA environmental reviews, and to exempt certain properties from requiring SECRA review, which will help get more homes built, which is good. And I think we should be doing the same thing. I agree with you. We should be doing the same thing with business regulations. I'm a pro-business Democrat. I want businesses to open.
Business.
And I had a business. I still have a business. But on top of that, I think that this idea that labor and business have to be antagonistic, I think, is inaccurate and harmful. And I was even talking to a labor leader just the other day, and he agreed with me. He says, one of the problems is that we have too many people that think that, what's good for the business is bad for labor. That's not necessarily the case. Only if it comes at the expense of labor. But if you reduce certain restrictions on businesses that relate to business formation, how does that hurt labor? It makes it better for labor, because then more businesses get formed and more people get hired.
Right.
I'll give you an example. I'll give an example of good faith, well-intentioned regulations that make it hard on businesses. And I'll just give a personal example, because I ran a real estate company. Real estate brokerages are licensed. Real estate agents are licensed by the state. Right. I think that's right. I think they should be, because I think when you're managing people through the purchase of a home, that's a big responsibility, and you should have to get licensed. And I think probably the license requirements should be in that case more strict, just simply because I think that real estate, I personally feel that real estate is, you need to have really good training. But I don't think the training equates to what real estate agents do in 2026. I think the training was created at a time when real estate was very different, and people get trained on things that they shouldn't necessarily, they don't need to be trained on. They don't get trained, they get trained on baseline ethics, but not, and baseline legal compliance, but not on how do you deliver quality experiences to consumers, which I think should be more part of the required training. On top of that, the bundle of forms that we have to sign every time we sit down with a client is staggering. And the forms are written by committees up in Albany, and they don't make any sense, and you can't explain them. You have to sit down with a client and say, you have to sign this. So what does it mean? Well, it means that I'm going to be representing you as your agent. Well, that seems very simple. It is simple. Well, then why is the thing 2 pages long? And they question it. They doubt me as the agent.
When I did a refi on my house, I got writer's cramp signed my name on all the, I mean, it was a stack of papers, literally. I mean, major league stack of papers. So I understand where you're coming from on that. Okay.
So I agree with you.
Yeah,
reduce regulation, make businesses easier to easier to start, easier to manage. Keep the regulations that are absolutely necessary to protect public safety and public health.
And that'll help the economy by getting more businesses in, taking up tax bases,
hiring more people.
Like
yep, absolutely.
Okay. Let's move on. You have a hard out in about 57 minutes. So
oh my gosh, 57 minutes already.
Yeah. It's 11:03 already.
Yeah, no.
All right. Let's look at the sanctuary policies and the illegal immigration.
Okay.
New York, I mean, we've got illegal immigrants here in New York that are being protected from being given to ICE, all these ICE protests and stuff. I mean, okay, people are screaming, oh, they're here. They didn't break any laws. No, they broke the first law coming into the country without following proper procedures. That's a crime right there, okay? But they're protecting the people that, I mean, they say that people are complaining about, the ICE is going in and terrorizing communities and putting fear in communities. If the state would get out of the way and let them take these people when they're arrested right out of the jail, they wouldn't have to go into the communities to look for them. I mean,
okay.
Why have sanctuary policies that protect people who we know are hurting people, American citizens? I mean, look how many American citizens have been killed by illegals that are here, that are criminals, that were arrested numerous times and released and protected under sanctuary policies.
A couple of clarifications. One, if you look at any reliable study that's out there, undocumented immigrants commit crimes at a lower rate than native-born American citizens. So yes, in a country of 350 million people, however many people are here, and with the number of immigrants that have come in both legally and who might have come in legally but are now undocumented and are here past their allowed date. Yeah, I mean, some of them are going to commit crimes, and it's horrible, and it breaks your heart. And there's not one person on my side of this argument whose heart does not go out to people who have been victims of crimes of people who are undocumented. Stipulate to that, absolutely, positively. Now, let me ask you a question, because I'm going to take issue a little bit with your premise about this, but let's stipulate a couple things. One, Joe Biden did a terrible job controlling the border, and it cost him his election, without question. And we need to be stronger on the border. We should have stronger controls. We should be protecting people from who are going to come here illegally. Okay.
For the past year, it's been zero.
I doubt it's been zero. That's what they say.
Okay.
I doubt very much it's been zero. Nothing's zero. But it's gone down. They've done a better job.
League.
It's the one thing that I think that it's one of the few things I think that President Trump has done well, which is that he did put controls on the border. Now, that's his signature issue, so it's something he cared a lot about, but I happen to agree with him that in order for us to have an orderly society, and quite honestly, from a pure political standpoint, we can't have chaos at the border. All right. Now, realize, most people who are here illegally did not cross illegally. Most people who are here illegally came illegally, and they have since become undocumented. That's absolutely that's a bigger problem. But here's the hypothesis I'll give you. Let's say that we created a federal task force to go after a particular aspect of criminal enforcement. Do we want? Let's say it had to do with trafficking. You know, would we want that task force to be busting people drug trafficking? Let's say, do we want that task force to be out there busting people in, you know, downtown in the you know, the village, the West Village of New York City? Do we want them busting people selling dime bags of pot? Do we want like the SWAT team coming out and arresting them? Do we want to be going after and a low-level offenders of people that are not a threat to anybody else? Or do we want them going after kingpins? Do we want them going after violent offenders? Do we want them going after the people that are the most menacing? I think you would say. But just answer I answer your questions.
Okay.
I try to answer your questions. But don't you agree with me that our priority should be going after, if there's a drug trafficking task force, they should be going after the big fish?
Yes, but
yes, okay.
The thing is, okay, when you're talking big fish, let's say you got a guy who they know is here illegally, was committing murders, committing crimes and stuff. He was arrested in New York State, and now he's been released back into the community. That's why they go into the community, and that's how these other people get swept up in these searches, because they find that the person, let's say you committed the crime, okay? They're coming looking for you. If they got you right out of the jail, they don't have to go into the community. But we let them out, and then we don't want you in our communities. Well, then stop letting these people into the community.
You're saying this person committed a violent crime and then was immediately let out. And
not immediately, but was eventually let out, especially with the New York bail laws, which we'll get into also, okay? But these people are let out back into the communities, and now they have to go searching for them in the community. And that's how you end up with these people who only came across illegally, have not committed any other crimes, being swept up. Okay, you're here illegally, you're coming too.
Yeah.
Because they're looking for that kingpin that you're talking about.
You get the kingpin. I don't know if that's actually true.
It is.
I think that what they do. I think obviously my analogy, my hypothetical, was to go over the fact that I think ICE. There's so many things wrong with ICE that I don't have time to get into every one of them. But one of the things that's wrong with it is that they've given them a quota of numbers of people to pick up. Not, here's your most wanted list, go after the most wanted list, get those people. They're just trying to get numbers. And the way they get numbers is they hang out at Home Depot, and they go wait outside schools, and they target people coming to the court hearings to get their green cards. They're going in and getting them there. That to me is offensive and immoral.
I'll give you that.
Okay.
I'll
so we're agreeing, because I gave you something. I gave you the border. You're giving me that.
I'll give
we're
you
getting
that,
somewhere.
If they're just loitering, just to use a word, to grab people that are coming in, regardless, that are trying to do things legally. Okay, you're right. I'll grant you that one. But the biggest problem with this is when they arrest somebody who's committed a violent crime, who's here illegally. Okay.
They don't deport them.
They don't give them to ICE to deport them. They let them back into the community.
I don't think that's true.
It is true. It is true.
I don't.
Because it is true, because the sanctuary policies state that
That's not what happens right now. There was an attempt to make an ICE cooperation bill in Rockland County,
and it failed.
It didn't happen. It's
I know.
the same
I covered
bill.
the press conference on
I know.
that.
It's the same bill. Have you been in Westchester County? Has Westchester County been overrun by immigrants? Is that Westchester County some sort of lawless chaos wasteland? Westchester County is very nice.
Yeah, but
Westchester County has the same law that was proposed here in Rockland County.
Here's the thing, okay?
Westchester County is just fine.
During that press conference that Beth Davidson had, okay, she was talking about about not
cooperating, but the non-cooperating it did not apply to criminal investigation.
It
did not apply to criminal. They allowed cooperation for criminal investigations.
But it was still saying that they needed a federal warrant to arrest them, even if they committed a state crime.
I don't know.
I was at the press conference.
I don't know. All right. Forgive me.
Thing that
it was not my bill. I support generally the idea of trying to reduce the impact that ICE is having, is I think ICE is a very poorly constructed right now and poorly
Well,
aimed.
maybe it is. Maybe
it's,
it isn't.
it's a hammer going
that-
after a nail.
That's debatable on both sides.
And it's fine. We can debate it. I
but
think
the,
that
the whole thing is when she was mentioning that about how one thing she said was about protecting children. This is all about protecting the children. I mentioned about how I was a teacher. I know about protecting children. Blah 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 blah. And she's like, well, she said, well, ICE has killed 2 more people in the past. How many does that make? Looking over her shoulder, 32 people that ICE has killed have been killed by ICE. When I brought up the fact that, I said, well, what about the 67 people that were killed by ICE under the Obama administration? She shut down the press conference.
I wasn't there.
I can show it to you.
Well,
she goes, any other questions? And close down the. I
well,
think
Obama had
back.
8 years, and ICE has
but-
been now acting for about a year.
Yeah, but the point is, okay.
I don't even
that-
know if those numbers are correct.
They are.
But
But
hold
anyway,
on.
all right,
Yeah, I'm not. We can't. I don't
let's-
have the.
let's not
I
get
don't.
into the minutia.
This is
Let's
not
get
something.
back
Yeah.
to-
Let me just talk in general cases.
Okay.
I do not believe what I saw in Chicago or LA, and especially in Minneapolis, was effective law enforcement. I think what ICE did in Minneapolis in particular was lawless and offensive. And I don't want that kind of activity happening in Rockland
But
County.
if the
Now,
police were allowed
let me
to,
finish.
if the police were allowed to step in and help with crowd control and stuff, things like that wouldn't happen. ICE can only do so
I think
much.
that we're relying on different news sources for information on
need-
this.
but-
So let's just let me just say what I feel.
Okay, go ahead.
And this is what I understood to be the case. This is what I feel. What I feel is that, do I want ICE going after dangerous criminals? Absolutely, 100%. Anybody who's committed a violent crime, I want them deported. Anybody who's committed a violent crime, and if they've committed non-violent crimes, but they've committed crimes that are serious enough, I think they should get deported. I think that ICE is going well beyond that focus, and they're deporting people that are contributing to our society, that are harmless, that are, from all intents and purposes, innocent, other than the fact that they were here and maybe they came here without having legal right to be here, or they stayed past their welcome. In any way, they're undocumented. I don't like calling people illegal, but they're undocumented. They're not properly documented to be here. Those people, I think there should be a way for us to deal with them that does not require us to kick them out of the country if they are. I mean, amnesty is a dirty word, but Ronald Reagan proposed it. An amnesty, the idea of like saying to people, well, if you're here and you've been here and you are willing to pay your way into the country, you're willing to wait and get a legal status. If not, you're not going to get citizenship, but you get legal status. I think we should be doing that. We should be focusing on getting rid of the violent people and the people who are committing crimes, get rid of them, and not just running nets that we're getting up gardeners and we're getting up kids. Now you say you're a teacher. And the problem with what ICE is doing, that you go to North Rockland High School, kids aren't going to school because they're afraid of getting picked up. They're afraid that if they leave, they'll come home, their parents will have been picked up. That's a real thing that's happening. Go look at the absentee rates at North Rockland High School since all this started.